Welcome to Driving the Lane with Randy Kraayenbrink and Chuck Rowe, a podcast presented by News Talk 1540 KXEL. Now, Driving the Lane.
Welcome to Driving the Lane. Randy Kraayenbrink, Chuck Rowe, the show where we talk mostly about one thing only, and that is
Panther basketball.
Now, it's important that we remind you that even though we are the official UNI basketball show for News Talk 1540 KXEL, our comments may not reflect the feelings of our friends at UNI. However, Randy is a former player, and I'm wearing this fancy UNI polo shirt today. So this show is as official as it's going to get. You like it?
You always look good, Chuck.
Thank you. Thank you.
You look especially good in that UNI polo.
So now, as always, we have a great show for you this week. Joining us today, assistant coach PJ Hogan. And of course, the financial architect's quote of the week. Let's get started. Randy, excited to have us with us today. Our longest tenured assistant coach, drum roll, please. Okay. So with PJ Hogan, sorry about that intro, but PJ Hogan, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great to be on with you guys. Appreciate you having me and looking forward to talking some UNI hoops.
So now, PJ, you've been part of the Panther program for 20 years, 17 of those years as a full-time assistant. So first off, congratulations on hitting that 20-year mark. But what is it that about UNI that keeps you coming back year after year?
Yeah, well, very fortunate to get the opportunity to come here in the first place with Coach McDermott when he was the head coach, and Coach Jake was the assistant, and had worked for Coach Mack before at Wayne State College in Nebraska, and then at North Dakota State. Coach Mack and myself and Coach Jake were all on the same staff together. So came to Northern Iowa, obviously being an Iowa guy, was excited about the opportunity to come down here and work for Coach Mack and Jake. And then very fortunate when Coach Mack left that Coach Jake decided to keep me on, and just have enjoyed every minute of it. It's what makes this place special is obviously the job that coach does year in, year out, how he treats his players, how he treats his staff. The type of young men that we get to recruit at Northern Iowa really makes our job a lot of fun. It's obviously it's about our goal, our players' goal is to win as many games as possible. But really, at the end of the day, you want to surround yourselves with good people, good young men. And we've been very fortunate to not only have talented basketball players, but good dudes to be around every day, to work with. And that's what makes it special here, and why, I've been lucky enough to be able to be here for 20 years. And obviously we all have goals for our team. Every day we're trying to accomplish those. But Coach does a great job of keeping everything in perspective, but also making sure that we're doing everything we can to put our guys in the best situation as possible. Because obviously these guys, basketball has meant the world to them. They put a ton of time into becoming the players that they are to get this opportunity. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can for them to make sure they have the best experience that they possibly can have. And obviously everybody sees game night, but those are 31 opportunities. What a lot of people don't see is outside of game night what all these guys are doing. We've got a good group that wants to work, loves to be pushed, and are good dudes. So I think at the end of the day, that's why I've been fortunate enough to be at UNI for so long.
Yeah, I think so we have the opportunity, obviously, to interview some of these guys, current, past players. And I think the type of kid that the Panthers recruit obviously is huge. And so maybe talk a little bit about your recruiting process. We talk to I get the opportunity to talk to a number of high school kids, young kids. And I think parents don't realize that, in my opinion, you're also recruiting the parents as well as the kid, right? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no question. I think in terms of, obviously, at the end of the day, players have to have talent. You got to be a good basketball player. And obviously, depending on the position you play, there's different things you look for with a basketball player. For us, how we like to play, we like skilled basketball players that can, and it sounds very remedial, dribble, pass, and shoot. But at the end of the day, if you can do that, X and O wise, it spreads the floor, makes you much harder to defend. And that's what we're always trying to do. But, I'm not going to say like there's a ton of guys out there that can do this, but there are a number of players that are those type of players. But I think what the separator is what you're trying to dig into is, what kind of young man is he? Is he coachable? How hard of a worker are they? How much time are they going to put in? Because at the end of the day, when you get them here, you don't want to be begging them to come to the gym every day. There's a ton of great coaches in the Missouri Valley Conference and throughout the country. There's a lot of good basketball players in college. What are the separators? I think work ethic is going to be a separator. I think how important it is to you is going to be a separator. Like, how do you get along with your teammates is going to be a separator. Do you feel like you want to be a part of a team? It's just not about you. Those are separators for us in recruiting and trying to put a team together. And it's not about who individual players win basketball games, teams win games. And how can we put those together for our team at Northern Iowa to be successful? And I think it's just not about the player anymore. I think social media has really played a factor in it, that it's a family, and these parents have provided a lot of opportunities for these young men to chase these dreams, and they're part of it as well. And, they want their sons or daughters to be successful, and we want that as well. And so there is no doubt when you're around guys for 4 or 5 years, it's just not about the player, it's about their families and, how they've been pushed. And, that's an important part of it for us as well, because, we've been very fortunate. We've got a lot of great young men, and their parents have done a tremendous job. They're basically asking us to continue to help develop them, not only as players, but young men. And that's something that we take very seriously. So it's just not about the guy. It's about the entire family and that dynamic. And obviously want, good families, good young men. And you see it all the time, like young men not getting recruited because of either what they're saying on social media or the parents are saying, or, you hear stories like, well, when we're on the road recruiting, a parent might be being escorted out. Like, I mean, do you want that as part of what you have going on? But, we've been very fortunate. We've got great kids, great families. And, but I think just like everything, when you're recruiting a young man and you're looking to offer them a scholarship, like that's a big time investment. And, you're turning over every rock. You're talking to the high school coach, you're talking to the AAU coaches, you're talking to the assistant coaches, you're talking to the ADs, you're talking to the teachers. Like it's an investment in terms of these young men, in terms of being able to represent your program. And that is one thing that Coach Jake is very important to him. Like, he wants young men that are going to represent what we're doing in Northern Iowa in a first-class manner. So you try to figure it all out. And it's not perfect, but that's kind of the process that we go through.
Right. Now, it's funny because I've only been here since 2010, so not as long as you guys, obviously. The only technical I could remember is Clint Carlson slamming a ball down one time during a game, getting a technical. And I think Clint has joked with us how he was in the doghouse for, I think, a game or two because of that. So it just shows the type of kids that you get. You don't get kids that get in a lot of trouble or stay unfocused during games.
Yeah, I think we've all been there as players. Like, it's an emotional game, and it's a balance. Like, to be good, it needs to mean a lot to you. And there's always times that, something's going to happen. You might lose your mind for a second. And I think coach understands that. Like, we want these guys to go about their business the right way. What happens on the floor or whatnot, that's part of it. And Clint responded well. Probably at the time it wasn't what coach wanted, but because we don't ever want to give up those free points to the other team. But it's that's part of it. That's part of the game. Emotions run high sometimes. Rather have it that way than everybody just going about their business. Like sometimes you have to crank it up a little bit, and that's okay.
Well, when you think about your personal life or maybe your work life and how things have changed recruiting wise 20 years ago compared to now, how has it changed for you since, right now we hear a lot of the players say, well, the reason why we came to UNI is the coaches came to all of our games. They came to all of our AAU games. How has that changed for you personally since 20 years ago?
Well, I think, when I first got into the business at the Division II level, like there's a lot less rules in terms of how often you can see these kids. So at the Division I level, there's more restrictions in terms of how often you can see guys or how much you can be out. But I think what has really changed is just the number of opportunities for these young men to play. I look back when I was playing, there were 2, maybe 3 AAU programs in the whole state. Now there's 10 plus. Like the opportunities for boys and girls to play and have the opportunity to play is so much greater now than it was 20 years ago or even 30 years ago. So you're getting to see a lot more players. It's a lot easier to see players. I think 20 years ago it was guys would go under the radar because there weren't as many opportunities. Some guys maybe late bloomers that maybe weren't on a couple of the top AAU teams that were still really good players. And then, back in the day, they'd end up in the North Central Conference at South Dakota or South Dakota State or North Dakota State or Morningside. Well, now that league is all Division I basically. So the amount of opportunities to me has just changed tremendously for these young men to get out and play and get out in front of coaches. And, obviously our resources are better now in terms of being able to get out and see these young men play and really evaluate them. It's a lot of these guys, you look at players that are in our current program, we start recruiting them when they were freshmen or sophomores, or by recruiting, I mean, you're watching them at least, starting to watch their development. It's just not, oh, he's a senior, so, now we're going to start watching them. The recruiting seems to happen earlier and earlier all the time. And, evaluating them and then trying to project where they're going to be at in a couple of years.
2 sport athletes, 3 sport athletes. So that's one question. Obviously, I give Coach Jake a hard time because he's not bringing anybody out of Northwest Iowa, right? Because that's where I came from. And he mentioned at one time, he goes, some of those players we don't get a chance to see maybe because they are playing baseball, maybe because they are doing another sport, and it's difficult for us to catch up and see them. Plus, he said a lot of kids don't like to leave Northwest Iowa, which I totally get. That is God's country up there. Anyway, but so talk maybe about when kids start to specialize. Are they doing that more? Are they not playing other sports?
Yeah, I would say, it's funny.
Do you like athletes who play other sport? I mean,
personally, I do.
Athlete's an athlete, right?
I mean, personally, I do. I mean, because I just think it's different for them. It's what you have to go through in basketball is a lot different than what you go through in football or even track, baseball. Like, and I look back, obviously I've been fortunate enough to be here. Some of our better players, Seth Tuttle was a multi-sport athlete. Jeremy Morgan was a stud wide receiver and really good track guy. One of our current players right now, Trey Campbell, I mean, basketball, track, football. The things that, and probably with Seth and Jeremy, because they played multiple sports, they never totally just concentrated on basketball. And what you saw is when they got here, they were able to concentrate just on hoops, and they just kept getting better and better and better. And I do think you see it more. in the smaller classes, you see more multi-sport athletes, because obviously there's that pull from the community to try to get you to play. And a guy like Seth loved it. He loved playing football. He did track. Jeremy, I think really until, early on, everybody thought he'd be a football player. He was a really good wide receiver, and then he just kept getting better and better in basketball. And that was his family, background was more basketball than anything. But you see it, their development once they get to campus, because they're able to concentrate, just get better and better. And I like it because they get challenged. Maybe they're not the best player. Maybe they're the best player on the floor in basketball, but maybe they're not in football, or maybe they're not in track, and that's okay. Like they have to overcome some stuff out there, and I think that's only makes them better. Not a better basketball player in terms of making a shot, but understanding like we're gonna have to work. Like there's gonna be some hard days. Like when you look back at it in high school on the basketball floor in practice, like you could get away with not bringing it because you were the best player. Like you were getting ready for game day. Well, if you're not bringing it in football and you're not the best player, you're going to get woken up pretty quick. So I think all that is really good for these young men. But I always tell them, and kids ask me that all the time. And the question usually comes down to football a lot of times, like, do you think we should play? And I always tell them, if you want to play, you should play. But if you're 50-50, I don't know if football or any sport is worth playing if you're not 100% in, because that's when something can happen. So we love it. I think it allows guys to learn how to be in different settings with teammates and stuff like that, but also different, you're put in different situations to have to learn from as well. And hopefully you can, when you get to college, kind of remember some of those lessons that you learned, because when you get to college, we try to tell all our young men, like, it's going to be hard. Like, it's going to be hard, and you're going to have bad days and hard days. And, your development is really going to be determined on how you respond to those type of days. And because if you're going to hang your head and feel sorry for yourself, that's going to affect your ability to get better. And that's going to affect your ability to get on the floor. Hopefully, you never want these young men to have to struggle, but let's be honest, you're naive to think you're going to walk in and not struggle. If you talk to AJ Green, I'm sure when he was a freshman, there was days where it was hard for him because he's having to learn some different things. So no matter how good you are, or how talented you are, or what your ranking is, there's going to be some tough days. And, I think if you've had some of those before, it's going to allow you to adjust a little bit quicker.
And at the end of the day, it's called life, right?
That's exactly right. You're exactly 100%, 100%. So, and that's what I love about athletics. And I think we all do that have been a part of it or associated with it, is it is great on the job training for the real world. Because it's, I joke, because we're all going to get punched in the face. It's all going to be about how you respond after that. And that could happen in the middle of practice on a Monday. That could happen on Wednesday night in a game. That could happen in the summer when you're working your job to have a little spending money. Like those things are all going to happen. So let's have them happen. Let's learn from them, so that when they do happen, where the stakes are even higher, which is called the real world, you're ready for them. And not that we've all stubbed our toe, and we've all had those opportunities, and sometimes you learn the hard way. The thing that I always love about being around our young men is we're trying to help them so that they can be successful. And that's, sometimes they don't like what you have to say, and that's okay. They don't have to agree with you, but we all have had our experiences and try to help them so that they can be as successful as they want to be.
And Randy, tell me if you think I'm wrong here, but PJ, you seem like to be one of those guys that if there were like 5 different 6'7" guys surrounding you, ready to get in a fight, you're going to roll up your sleeves and say, you know what, let's go. I'm not backing out of this. Have you always had that attitude, even when you were a kid? And how did that play a role in your playing days?
Well, I got beat up a lot. No, Probably, well, most people that would tell you, I was, when I was younger, I'd always push the envelope, probably stick my nose in stuff that didn't need to be mine. I had a lot of energy and, but, I think, everybody has their own personality. And I think being around some great coaches and Coach McDermott, Coach Jacobson, Ron Smith, Jeff Rudder, Kyle Green, Eric Crawford, the things that you see all the time is everybody coaches to their personality or plays to their personality. And, I think the thing that we can all get away from sometimes is trying to be somebody you're not. And, I think I have a lot of energy. And I like to, me personally, I like to compete no matter what I'm doing. And that'll show up sometimes on game days or practices or whatever else. But, the thing that's why I enjoy being part of athletics, being on the floor with these young men. And I would tell you it'd be the same if I'm doing a project, trying to get ready for next season's, and it's in the middle of July. Like, I want to do it well. I want to make sure that I'm prepared, but also that we can help our guys be better. And never going to ask a young man or somebody in our program to be somebody they're not going to be. Not everybody, I look at it, and I have really enjoyed this past year of working with Trey Campbell, who's a freshman. Like, his personality, he's a pretty reserved young man. To expect him to walk out there and act like me or act like somebody else is not going to happen. And that's not going to put him in the best position to be successful. So everybody's going to do what they feel most comfortable in terms of their personality. And, there's been time and, talking with Coach Mack or or Coach Jake or my mentors, like, there's times you have to take it back a couple of notches and understand who you're talking to, understand where they're at. Sometimes tough love isn't always the best love. So, there's things that I'm learning all the time, and not perfect in terms of what I do, but I do know that, I'm going to try to be who I am and help our guys be as successful as they can be, because I want them to be successful. I want them to have fun. They've worked their tails off to be successful, and I want to make sure that we're helping them. So there's some energy there sometimes, and try to stay in my lane as much as possible.
The only thing I'll say about PJ staying in his lane is when people know I go to hot yoga, because we talk about it, right? People don't know that PJ is probably at hot yoga, not quite as much as I am, because he's on the road a lot more. But when PJ shows up in the hot yoga room and he lays his mat next to yours, you're like, oh man, that just ruins my day, because I just know we don't compare mats. I do.
You're not supposed to.
Destroys me.
Yeah.
It destroys me, and I don't like that, Chuck.
Yeah. He needs that yoga to calm him down after those games.
Oh, yeah, well, it has been very good for me to do that. Get an hour. Like I tell everybody, it's an hour where you don't really think about a whole lot, and able to relax, even if it's hard, and that's what I enjoy. But even if it's for 5 minutes before or 5 minutes after, just getting away and relaxing for a second. But I always enjoy, if Randy's in the class, I always know it's going to be a good class. So it's always fun.
Now, I've met your parents a couple times during those Tip of Panther days that they would do at the OP, and they're super nice and sweet folks. In fact, Randy, I don't know if you knew this, but his parents actually used to donate season tickets to the Boys and Girls Club so that families could go to games, and just really awesome, just nice people. So when you see a player not cover somebody on defense and you're getting really fired up, and the thing that I love the most, this is my favorite thing because I sit behind the benches. I love when PJ covers his mouth, turns around, and says something to one of the other coaches. When you're stomping up there, getting fired up, have your parents ever called you and say, "Okay, son, I saw you on TV," and have they ever done that before?
No. They used to when I was a player. They were quick to point all that out, but now No, luckily, because I don't know how long that conversation would go on. And I'll be honest with you, my dad is pretty reserved. I probably get most of it from my mom, who everybody thinks is this nice lady, but no, I'm just kidding. She's but now it's funny because I have Austin Fife always sitting next to me during these games, which, he's kind of student assistant helping out this year, going through his deal. And I always tell him afterwards, I said, dude, I apologize. I mean, don't, this is, you got to let it out somewhere. It used to be Seth and Coach Crawford. And now it's Austin. So, my guess is I'd always be the same. If we're always looking for perfection and we're never going to get it. Obviously, the thing I love about defense is defense travels. You can always play defense. Defense, a lot of times, there's a lot that goes into putting a game plan together. There's a lot that goes into kind of your core beliefs on how you're going to defend that you start building sometimes in the summer, in the fall. But you can control a lot on the defensive end. And as much as we love offense, as much as Randy loves to shoot the basketball, you can't always count on the ball going through the basket. You can count on having great effort. You can count on defending at a high level. When you do that every single night, you're going to give yourself a chance to win every night. And that's what I love about the defensive end of the floor. There's a lot of back and forth, obviously, just like there is on offense. Like, what are they running to try to attack your defense? So you're always trying to adjust those in-game adjustments, those post-game adjustments, pre-game adjustments in terms of how you feel you're going to be successful. And, to me, that's what makes it so much fun on the defensive end. A lot of it's about effort, communication, toughness. Our words that we throw around a lot. We want to make it as hard on you as it possibly can be. We want you to take tough contested jump shots, and then we're going to rebound it and then try to go score it on the other end. But the defensive end it travels. And let's be honest, like, you can have bad days on offense, but you can't control some of those. Some nights the ball just doesn't go in the basket, but defensively, for the most part, you can control what you're doing out there.
And PJ, don't get me wrong, I love the fact that you get fired up on defense. I'm a defense guy, so I absolutely love it. And one of the players has said to us in the past that during practice, PJ is demanding on defense. He's constantly yelling, constantly coaching. He's all great around coach. He cares so much, and it shows. What goes through your mind when you hear a player applaud you like that?
I love it, because that's why we do it. I always try to tell the guys, like, we all played. We all had guys that we played with, former players that come back, or guys that went on to college and came back. And there's times you hear, like, I wish I would have done this more. I wish I would have worked harder. I wish I would have done whatever. Well, at the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that no player that I'm working with or we're working with comes back and ever says that. If they're saying that, then we're not doing our job. And sometimes that means motivating, pushing them, however you want to call it. But I played for a college coach who was an assistant that was very demanding, pushed us extremely hard, named Brian Pearson, who played at Iowa State from Pomeroy Palmer. He was as demanding as any person I've ever been around. And he would let you know it when you weren't doing what you needed to be doing. But the thing that I always loved about Coach Pearson was once you left the gym, it all stayed in the gym. And he had the respect of every player on our team. Every player would always come see him. He was a friend. But when you step between those lines, it was go time. And if you weren't doing your job, he was going to let you know it. And my goal is hopefully to help our guys be the best they can possibly be. But at the end of the day, they all need to know that I have their back. We have their back as a staff to be as successful as they want to be. And we're trying to help them be successful individually, team-wise, so they can reach the goals that they want to reach.
A quick question, and it just doesn't have to be a long answer. the NIL deal, right? The name, image, and likeness. Is that affected like recruiting? We've talked to a number of players. It hasn't, to be a Panther, you have to have something, you have to bleed a little purple and gold. Your heart has to be a little bit different. But the NIL deal, the positive, negatives, throw it out there.
I don't think it's affected the young men that we've been recruiting to this point. It gets brought up every now and then. But it's weird because I think of it as, it's a great opportunity when you get a full ride scholarship to play college basketball. Like, a lot of young men would love to have that opportunity, and to be able to get your college paid for playing basketball is a pretty amazing deal.
Right.
But at the same time, these guys, the opportunity of NIL that has come up now, I'm excited for them because it's opening doors, not only obviously for them to for players across the country to make some, get a little bit more money. But it also, I think it's opening doors of opportunities that, kids are being put in positions that they've never been put in terms of if it's a commercial or if it's using social media platform to help you develop a brand. Like, I think they're learning. There's a learning aspect of it too, of, hey, these opportunities are out there, but I have to do some work to get these opportunities as well.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I think that it's, I'm all for young men if they have the opportunity to do it. I think that's amazing. It's a little bit smaller scale at a place like Northern Iowa, I think, than what you're seeing in some of the crazy stories across the country.
Right.
If it's the quarterback at Florida that signed an NIL deal and then backed out because the money fell through, it just, that part of it you hate to hear because it's still a game. There's still 18 to 22-year-olds that are playing the game, a game, if it's football, basketball, whatever, because they love it. So you hate hearing some of that stuff. But it's a great opportunity for these young men and women throughout the country, and one that obviously they've deserved to get. So it's the world we live in, much like the transfer portal. Like, it's not going away. So you have to learn to adjust to it a little bit. But there's certain things you have to talk about with your players now that maybe you didn't. But overall, I think it's if we're gonna get mad about, like, it's not going away. So you might as well learn to move on and figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, talking about opportunities, a few years ago from Silver Waves Media, you were, noted as being one of the top assistant coaches for a mid-major program. And I know you're going to give a great, humble answer about that. So my question is, and it's kind of a two-part question that are similar, in that this past year, Ali was actually earned that same honor. And then also you have guys like Jake and Tuttle and Johnny Moran and some folks that have come back to coach at UNI. So the two questions are this: is one, do you kind of say to yourselves as coaches, like, someday I could see that person being a really good coach? And kind of the second part of that is what qualities do you see in those types of players?
Yeah, it's funny. You can tell. I mean, sometimes guys say, I want to get into coaching, and you're like, what? Like, I can't believe that. Like, sometimes it's like that.
Who would they be? Just kidding.
But other guys, you see it. You look at, even when Seth was in high school, he was a coach on the floor all the time. And you could kind of see that he was telling guys where to go, what to do. And he really got into that when he was here. So you could see that Seth had that drive in him. Because he loved the game and he loved coaching it. And he's been a tremendous asset to our program, no doubt, with what he's done as a player and now as a coach. And there's guys, some guys are it's you see it, some you don't. Like AJ Green wants to, I think when this is all said and done, his playing career's done, I think he wants to get into coaching. I think he'd be a great coach. Kyle and I always used to joke, though, if he's going to want to get into coaching, he's going to have to recruit. So he's going to have to talk a little bit, which he was so quiet, even as a player at UNI, that I always wonder, well, how will the recruiting spiel go? But I think the more, obviously, the game is taking him to some tremendous places, being around people that he's never been around. I think he's going to be tremendous with whatever he decides, because he's got an amazing work ethic, and he'll find his voice. And my guess is, being in an NBA locker room, you're going to find your voice pretty quickly, would be my guess. So you see it with some guys. Others, it surprises you sometime. But the real separator at the end of the day is when they decide that that's what they want to do. Once they decide, like, they're all in. And I think that's the biggest thing is, a lot of them don't, and I was no different when I got into as a GA for Coach Mack at Wayne State College. I had no idea what coaches did, none. And then you get in there, and Mack sits you down and tells you kind of your responsibilities and what you're going to be doing and all this, and you're like, man, how's there enough time in the day? Like, what's going on? So you get such an appreciation for what coaches do. And it's funny that I talked to Fife about it a little bit. Like, obviously he's been dealing with some stuff this year and having to overcome a lot, but I think being around our staff, what he's realized is what goes into putting a game plan together, what we're doing on a daily basis, and gets a little bit different perspective into it. And also he gets an opportunity to see it from a little bit of the outside of, so hopefully if things keep going well and he can continue to play, like he's going to have a different mentality to him on what it takes to be successful or how to go about it. So, the fortunate part we've had is, if it's Johnny Moran, Jake Cook, Mark Son, and they just have come in and just worked. And those are the type of guys you want in your program.
I want to show you a clip that we have from an interview we had with Titan just a couple weeks ago. Well, you have former All-State player PJ Hogan. Did you know he was a former All-State player?
Yeah, I've done research on PJ.
Okay, so former All-State player PJ Hogan, NBA Summer League player Seth Tuttle, former North Dakota Player of the Year Ben Jacobson. Okay, 3-on-3 against your class of Nate, Bowen, and yourself. Who wins and how?
Oof. I mean, that's tough.
Titans being pretty nice.
About now with?
Oh, you bet. Right now.
Yeah, we're winning. We're winning. We're winning. Back then.
Now, if it was hot yoga, I think PJ would win.
Oh yeah.
But probably on the court, you probably got it.
Oh yeah, they're moving a little bit slower nowadays.
Well, that's 100%. I'm more concerned when I'm moving not to get injured 1-on-0, let alone it's so funny. I tell everybody out that everybody's like, do you play anymore? Or I'm like, absolutely not. I don't play. I'm not, I want no part of it. I hate having to jump into a drill with our players, because as soon as they see you, they're like, I'm going to get so physical. I'm going to like knock this dude all over the place. I'm going to talk major smack, and I just want no part of it. And then when I do it wrong, they are all up in what I'm doing wrong, and they're now coaching me that I can't do my job. So it is no fun being on the floor with our players. I have no, thoughts that I can still play or move. Titan is 100% right. And when I have to jump out there, I'm just hoping and praying I don't get hurt.
So no 3-on-3 challenge coming up anytime soon, it sounds like.
Well, Coach Tuttle, Coach Jake and I would probably just have to pass it to Seth and try to get out of the way and try to put him in as many opportunities for him to score the basketball as possible. But, I know I can't guard Bowen, and I'm sure Coach Jake can't either. Nate Heisey could probably guard our entire team, and nobody can keep Titan off the board. So I don't think we'd have a chance.
Well, final question for you before we let you go, and that is when you're not focused on UNI basketball, because it's hard to picture you having off time. I just picture you drawing like defensive plays at home, like constantly all day. But Seth likes to golf and Jake likes to fish. What does PJ like to do on his off days?
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm a pretty simple person. I try to keep it very simple. There's two things I love to do. I love going to yoga and I love golfing. If I have an opportunity in the summer to go golfing, I'm going to do it. I always tell I'm single. I'm always available to play. I don't have to ask anybody other than maybe Coach Jake. But if I can golf, I'm going to do that. So it's just a quiet way to get away, be outside a little bit, hang with some friends, whatever. But it's not, sometimes it's relaxing, as we all know, but sometimes it's not, which is crazy because it should be, but just like anything, you get competitive and want to do well. But those are my two main hobbies that I like to do. And my parents live in Waverly, so they live on the course over there. So if I can go out and play with them every now and then, I try to do that, but very simple. And it's not, getting away from basketball. It's just like most coaches, you love to be around it. So it's not work when you're watching film or in the summer doing summer projects of trying to get better. That's it. I enjoy that. I'd rather be doing that than most things. So very fortunate that, get to work with great dudes, get to do a job that I love to do, something that, when I figured out in college, I was no longer good enough to play. When I got done playing, I just thought to myself, like, basketball has been a part of what I've been doing for so long. I don't know how I could, go have days where it's not part of my day. And, looking back on it now, it's the best decision I ever made is continuing to do this, and been very, very fortunate that Coach Jake has allowed me the opportunity to be here and be around our young men, and very lucky. And very proud of what we're doing, the group of guys that we have, and hopefully of what's to come. Obviously we all have major goals for this program. Coach has made that very clear, and try to work every day to accomplish those.
Well, PJ, thanks for joining us. We appreciate your input into that basketball world, and good luck this season. Finish strong, and we'll talk soon.
I appreciate it. Thanks for you guys' support, and great to see you.
Now's the part of the show that everyone's been waiting for, the Financial Architect's Quote of the Week.
Quote of the week, Chuck, here it is. Our anxiety does not come from thinking about the future, but from wanting to control the future.
Now, when it comes to control, Randy, is that something that bothers you at all, or?
There's a few things I like to control, but most things I have easy. I can let go of most things that are outside of my control pretty easily.
Okay, good for you, Randy.
Yeah. How about you, Chuck?
I could be a little bit of a control freak. I don't mean to be. I try to be this really nice guy that likes to maybe not be so controlling, but I can't help it. It's just in my DNA. So maybe you're because I get a little bit of anxiety if things don't go the way that I hope they do. So okay. So this quote was just for me, Randy. I feel empowered by it. Thank you.
I did not know that, but I see it.
Well, you weren't supposed to say that last part, but okay.
Gotcha.
So anyways, as always, good for you, good for me, good for everybody. And it's time now to say goodbye from Chuck and Randy. See you next week. Enter the closing music.